Hello everybody and welcome to this week's 5 in Midfield. Here's myself, Gav Mack, we've got Alex Osborn and we've got Stephen Buck. How are you boys?
All good, buddy. You?
Making dreams work, boys. Making dreams work. Well, this week we are doing our top 5 foreign players to play in the Premier League. And, I had a list of about 30. So, I had to think of ways to try and make it happen, But who are we going to start with? Alex, I'm going to let you go first.
You can go with me. Oh, okay.
No, actually. I'm going with Buck.
Oh, okay.
You're going to go with me?
I am indeed.
Excellent, mate. I do like it when I'm in first place.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Don't want to be sloppy seconds. I always want to be first.
He's a Spurs fan. He's a Spurs fan. He's got to get. He's not used to it, so might as well let him.
Oh, mate, I've had years of us never achieving anything. Literally, that is the last thing we've won. That's embarrassing, isn't it? It's really sad.
Hold on a minute. If you're sloppy seconds being a Spurs fan, does that mean you're third? Oh, that was one time only. Sorry.
It kind of makes us William Gallas, doesn't it?
Oh.
That was third.
I don't know if that's a burn or not.
Anyways, so my top 5. So my number 5 this week was the man that I absolutely loved watching play football growing up. And that is the former PFA Player of the Year, David Ginola.
What handsome bugger he is.
It's a bit controversial. There's some good players that could have easily gone above him, but we have to bear in mind this was a guy that should have won a Premier League 2 seasons before that when he was playing for Newcastle. Really should have done. He was PFA Player of the Year. I think it was the 98 season, 99 season for Spurs, and that Spurs outfit was dreadful. I mean, just absolute toilet.
Probably why he got it.
Through. Yeah, he dragged them through. He even won a League Cup with that horrendous side. And I don't know any other player that had the ability, flair that he had that could take on a man and beat him in that particular era. And you also have to take into account that there's that fantastic goal that he scored where I think it was against Barnsley or Charlton.
Oh,
pretty much went through about 7 players. And then
is that the one he picked up on the left touchline, isn't it? I think just inside their half, yeah.
Magical goal. If anyone's out there and you want to go and see a great David Ginola goal, David Ginola, I think it was the FA Cup, and I'm pretty sure it was against Barnsley. Go and check it out. Fantastic goal. Top player.
Do you know what we'll do? We'll find a link for it and we'll put it on the page. There you go. Let's do that. Deserved. Right, who's number 4?
Number 4. Arguably, probably the best goalkeeper that's graced the Premier League and Manchester United.
Goalkeeper.
Peter Schmeichel. At the time when Schmeichel was goalkeeping, I don't think there was a single keeper that was anywhere near him in terms of ability in the Premier League. Legendary status amongst United fans, and even the ways that he used to goalkeep for them was completely different to everybody else. He wasn't going to stay on his agility. He was a big, heavy goalkeeper that made himself really imposing whenever you went in one-on-one on him. Superb player, great, brilliant. Number 4.
Excellent.
As far as I'm aware as well, that even back then it was a bargain signing as well, wasn't he? I think it was less than $1 million, wasn't it? They signed him for.
Yeah, he was dirt cheap, absolutely dirt cheap. So, what can you say?
Great shout. Who's your number 3?
Number 3, I've gone for the Portuguese wonder, Cristiano Ronaldo. Now,
not Nani?
Not Nani.
Oh, okay.
No. Although he did play longer in the Premier League than Ronaldo. Ronaldo, he had 2 seasons really where he lit up the Premier League for Manchester United. And I've kind of included the fact that he has gone on to some superb things. I mean, records have tumbled in everything that he's done. Multiple Champions League wins, multiple league wins. He's gone to pretty much every big club that you could imagine across the face of the earth, other than probably Bayern Munich. Everyone else has either wanted him, bought him, or he's played for them. The man is an absolute machine, and still physique and fitness I think he's 34 now or 35. Absolutely incredible machine. So it has to go in there.
Means I've got 2 more years to look just like him. You know.
I know. We've all got to start socially distancing ourselves from the fridge if we want to get anywhere close to looking like him.
Yeah, 'cause, well, with my cuppa. Number 2.
Number 2, it was a toss-up between 2 Manchester City players, but in the end I've gone for David Silva.
What a shout.
I think he has lit up the Premier League since he's turned up. Aguero gets the plaudits with his goals and will obviously always be remembered for that final moment when they won their first Premier League title, the goal against QPR. But David Silva is an absolute magician in central midfield. He completely revolutionised and helped change Manchester City from what was a little bit kick and rush to all of a sudden moving into a possession-based side. His passing ability, his longevity, his goal scoring record, and just generally the fact that the man is just a solid 8 out of 10 every single game that he plays. There is no dipping in quality levels. He's just ultra reliable. Brilliant player.
Begs the question. With
Who's
with that level of gratitude to the player, who's your number 1?
I went for a player that is legendary status as well. Played for Barcelona, and who every time he came up against, particularly my club, I genuinely feared for the goal mouth, and that was Thierry Henry. Brilliant player. To think that he was he was brought as a winger initially, and he's turned into one of the best strikers the Premier League has ever seen. I think he won 3 consecutive Golden Boots on the bounce. He's just a phenomenal striker that's won things wherever he's gone. Absolute sterling pro, longevity. What more can you say about the man?
King Thierry Henry the First. That's what I'll call him.
So there's the shock of the day. The Yido has picked an Arsenal man as the greatest foreign signing to grace the Premier League ever.
I honestly think that you've got a little soft spot for Arsenal.
No, there's no soft spot for Arsenal.
The amount of conversations that we have and stuff, there's always a wannabe jibe about Arsenal, and then it's like, oh yeah, well they had this and they did this and they did that.
Yeah, but I am going back to up to about the year 2000, 2001. After that, no one talks about Arsenal because it all went to pot, and they're basically the same as what Spurs are now, just dreaming of a full finish. But prior to 2002, I think they were one of the best clubs in the Premier League in terms of how they were playing football, and they were exciting to watch. As a football fan, you think of players like Bergkamp, the defensive units that you had in the likes of Tony Adams, Keown, Winterburn, Dixon, Sol Campbell. Judas.
I was waiting.
Still burning effigies on him. But yeah, it was a good side. And then gradually they basically did what Daniel Levy's doing now, and they sold off their best assets, tried to buy on the cheap, and just tried to survive.
We'll talk about that another time. Right, I'm going to hop in with our top 5s. Right, number 5, Tim Cahill. Right, there's reason.
The silence. Everyone's going, what? Tim Cahill.
Okay, yeah, Cahill. Okay.
Tim Cahill is Australian, so therefore
I know he's Australian. Yeah,
he's down to go in the foreign list.
He's classed as a foreign player. Yeah.
So he gets the top 5 because he's flown further than anybody else. Okay, right, yeah.
Well, I could have had Ryan Nelson.
Was he 4?
Wait. No, I've gone with Tim Cahill because of the impact that he's had, not just on the English game, but on Everton as well. Well, what are Everton? We all know this, but he carried Everton a lot. And a little bit like how you said about David Ginola, what an average Spurs side they were. And I'm not saying that Cahill's better than Ginola because he's not. But it's the impact that he had above everybody else to make the club get to close to where they need to be. You've got to remember, they finished top 4. one season. They were regularly in the top six.
Yeah.
And the amount of goals that he scored as well, he contributed a lot. So Tim Cahill is my number 4.
They were a solid top 8.
Number 5, sorry.
I would argue that there was other players from that Everton team who were probably just as influential as Tim Cahill, but, you know.
Yeah, Tony Hibbert was good, but he's English.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of someone like who's now a manager in the Premier League right now.
Number 4, I'm going with Eden Hazard because
good player.
Similar to Cahill, not that Chelsea were average. They weren't average at all. They'd already won titles and stuff when he was coming in. The thing with Hazard, everyone wanted Hazard.
Yeah.
He was at Lille. Could have picked him up on the cheap. And they picked him up for something like 22 or 23 million pound, which is a lot of money. But at the time, he wasn't proven.
It was still reasonable money at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was decent wedge back then. But yeah, you're looking back at it now, and he was a steal.
I was actually thinking of putting Wamata in for the same reason. He won Player of the Year in 2010 and 2011, and he was only £20 million. But I think Hazard has made more of a contribution to Chelsea than any other foreign player.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that, considering that I think Hazard was instrumental in Chelsea winning the title at least twice when he was there.
I think he was instrumental in Leicester winning the league as well. Do you not remember the... He'd been out injured pretty much all season, turns up and absolutely walks through the Spurs side and was pulling strings left, right and centre. And that was the end of any title push.
That's the year that you came third in the 2-horse race. Yeah.
We won't go into that.
Number 3, I've gone with Nemanja Vidic. He is a stalwart at the back. I mean, like, if you're making a Premier League 11 of this era, the previous era, it's hard not to put him at least on the bench. I mean, like, if you're going back to the 90s and stuff, you're going to be looking at Pallister, Bruce, Adams, Keown, Bold, that sort of stuff. As you go forwards, you're looking at John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Vidic.
Yeah.
And Vidic is an absolute man mountain. Imagine being down a dark alley and Nemanja Vidic is on you. I'd be worried. I'd be scared. The only person that's not scared...
He didn't scare Fernando Torres, did he?
I was about to say, the only person that he wasn't scared by was Fernando Torres. And I'll be honest with you, in my list, Fernando Torres was number 6. He was very close to getting involved. Number 2, I would argue this is the guy that revolutionised football. A foreign player that revolutionised football in this country. Gianfranco Zola.
Oh, great player.
He and Bergkamp came over in a time where it was still heavily dominated by English players and homegrown players. But that first influx of foreign players, you know, argue Cantona, I think he's overrated. That's a different story for a different time. But as the Premier League was still in its infancy, he came over in 97.
Only 2 seasons though, Klinsmann. Here for one season.
I know. It was only 2 seasons, but that one season, because it was 2 separate seasons, wasn't it? It wasn't back to back. But that first season he had, then he finished top goal scorer in the Premier League, or at least joint top goal scorer, I'm sure. So he was pretty influential, I think.
Then he went he went back to the Bundesliga after that, I think, didn't he? Didn't he go back to Munich or?
That was a strange one. I don't know why he didn't stay for longer. Maybe you could shed more there. That's probably...
We'll talk about that in another show. But
yeah.
Zola is won trophies with them. You know, he didn't... I don't think he did win the... I don't think he'd already gone back to Cagliari for the 04-05 season. But prior to that, this is when Chelsea weren't really anything. But he won a Cup Winners' Cup. He won a couple of FA Cups. Yeah, you know, he's got to be in there.
Wasn't Zola? Didn't he win the didn't he win the man of the match when Chelsea won the Cup Winners' Cup final when he only played like 20 minutes because he came off the bench, he scored the winner and destroyed the other team. I'm sure that
That's
was Lola.
because he is a boss.
Yeah.
But the number one boss, light Buck, Thierry Henry. End of. I don't need to go into any more detail about that. Alex, the anchor man, the Ron Burgundy of two up top football.
Oh god. Right then, I was going to
I'll
think
pick you
of
up there. This better be
try to think
good.
of a Ron Burgundy joke then, but then my mind just went completely blank, and I'll end up just butchering it. So let's move on. Number 5 for me, the best, who is one of the best midfielders to come from foreign lands, would be Patrick Vieira.
Oh,
Good shout.
Arsenal signed him for relatively as an unknown from AC Milan back in 1996, around about £3 million, I believe it was, and it was probably the best £3 million that they've ever spent. So he turned out to be a leader, a colossus, and basically what all modern midfield dynamos are based on. Whenever there
they
was
all want to
whenever
be
there's a
Paddy V.
player linked with, they were like, "Oh, he's the new Patrick Vieira." There's always seems to be. I know it's kind of died down in more recent years, but it always used to be the case of, "Oh, have we signed a new Patrick Vieira?" Or this club signed a new Patrick Vieira, and that to me says a lot. You know, when you are the standard that all future players are compared against, that to me says that your impact you had on the game was quite a lot.
Except if you're called Abu Dhabi.
Leave Abu alone, man. It's not his fault. Man. Alex, who's your number 4?
Number 4 for me was Cristiano Ronaldo. Now I know Stephen already mentioned him in his list, and he had him number 3. I mean, I had him at number 4 mainly because yes, he was great in the Premier League. I'd argue that he had one truly amazing season, almost you could call it elite, where he scored 42 goals in that one season,
Euphoric.
and there was a couple of other really good seasons and some promising seasons when he first joined. His best seasons, we can all agree, were at Real Madrid,
Yeah.
which were outside of the Premier League, but he still did enough in his time at Man United to be one of the best signings ever. And there is a little bit of how he performed after, because if he had stayed at Man United, then he probably would have done exactly the same that he did at Real Madrid, but just for Man United instead. So there's not much more you can say about the man.
I think when you've got someone like Sir Alex Ferguson that says, I only ever signed 4 world-class players, one of those is Cristiano Ronaldo. Peter Schmeichel, I think, was in that list. Paul Scholes, and I can't think who the 4th one was off the top of my head. Might have been Cantona.
Can't be
But that's enough. That's enough. When Sir Alex says to you, someone's world-class, I'm just going to take that as read.
Who's your number 3,
Yeah.
A-Dog?
Number 3 is personally a favourite of mine, mainly because if I was ever to be a football player, I always wanted to play like him, and that would be Cesc Fabregas.
I was about to say, Mark Noble is English. Why would you?
Yeah, Cesc
English as
Fabregas.
well. I mean, he's homegrown. He played for England.
He's homegrown.
2 spells in the Premier League. He had 2 different spells in the Premier League. First coming through the ranks. Well, I say through the ranks at Arsenal. We bought him from Barcelona, and then he came to us as a 16-year-old. And I can actually say I was there for his debut in it was the Carling Cup back then against Wolves at Highbury.
My
And
guy.
I knew then when I saw him live that I kind of thought that this guy was going to be special. And it turned out to be the case. He could do it all from midfield. He could control the tempo. He was what if you want to call it hipsters, call it the term press resistance. In terms of players would come and try and mark him closely, he'd be able to turn and not feel that pressure and be able to still pick out a pass. He could hit the ball from deep. Think of his times at Chelsea when he would hit the ball over to the top to Diego Costa. He used to do it quite often to Adebayor as well, Robin van
Who?
Persie, and he could score incredible long range goals. I remember one. No, it wasn't in the Premier League, but there was one against AC Milan in the Champions League where
Oh, yes.
won away 2-0, and he scored the first goal, and he drilled it in from about
About
30 yards.
35 yards.
It was, and the passion you could see that he scored then, and it all broke my heart when he left Arsenal to go to Barcelona. And here's the other stat as well: behind Ryan Giggs, who's got the most assists ever in the Premier League, Cesc Fabregas comes in at number 2. With I think it's something like 111.
Well,
Any
if you look
stats
at how
guys out there,
long Ryan
please.
Giggs was in the league, and
Exactly,
then
yeah.
so it goes to tell the story. Who's
You-
your number
you-
2,
you,
A-Dog?
Number 2, okay, so he
Oh.
was also a very personal favourite of striker of mine because I just couldn't help like the way he played his football. It was all power, it was all strength, it was all explosiveness.
What, Glenn
And
Helder?
Ego.
yeah, how do you know? But here's the thing: he'd always do it against Arsenal, and it was almost like that begrudging, like, oh, God, why are you doing it against us? But it was the one and the only Didier Drogba,
Oh.
and I loved his celebration as well. You know, doing the Drogba with your arms out to the side and pumping
Yeah.
and everything. But he took a season or so to get acclimatized. His first season, he didn't score too many goals, but you could see that there was definitely something there. And then after that, he just took off. And Chelsea, Chelsea definitely wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful if they hadn't have him up front. I mean, he bullied players. He scored incredible volleys. He was great in the air. He could hold up the ball. He could bring others into play. There was a couple of screamers he scored from long range. I know a couple against Everton that I can remember him scoring, which were like breathtaking.
He was a typical Mourinho striker, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and you think about it, he was kind of like the last of the dying breed in terms of like your true number 9. You know, your Alan Shearer type of strikers.
Before they got all feeble.
Exactly. I mean, and I was once friends would know this. I once thought that Andy Carroll was so good. I once labelled him the next Didier Drogba. So yeah, let's move it on from there.
Number 1.
Should we come back to that on another show? Because I feel
We are definitely coming back to that on another show, I swear to God.
Hey, look, I'll tell you what, Andy Carroll, there was for a brief moment in time, he was really good. I'm just telling you.
Hey, look, I understand your logic. Anyway, number 1, Andy Carroll is not foreign, so he's not going to be your number 1, I know that.
Anyway, number 1, it's a clean sweep for the king, Thierry Henry. As you can tell from from us, he's the consensus winner here. I mean, I'll let just there's one season which speaks volumes. I can't remember which one it was. It was either 2001, 2002 or 2002, 2003, where he got 24 goals in the league and he got 20 assists, which is still a record to this day. He's not been broken. And for a striker to be able to get both 20 plus goals and assists in the same season says it all.
Animal.
And I think it's a bit of a travesty as well that he never actually won World Player of the Year. He should have won World Player of the Year.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Mainly because it just seems to be that the World Player of the Year is a Spanish award. Whoever plays.
He needs to be playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona if you want to get that.
Exactly.
I think he moved a little bit too late, really, in his career to.
Yeah, but 229 goals. He's got one of the best goals to games ratio in the Premier League, and yeah, there's nothing more. And here's the other thing as well. It was pace, it was power, it was grace, wasn't it? As well.
Yeah.
Pace, power, grace. What a way to end this show. Hey, look, if you've got an idea for the show, by all means, lob it in the comments. Like, share, subscribe to our YouTube stuff. You would have saw the links all come up underneath a couple of moments ago. It's all the same, at 2UpTopFootball. So if you want to talk about something, you want to give us your idea for the top 5, as well as the top 5s. You know, do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Give us a shout. Let us know. But for myself, I'm Gav Mack. Alex Osborn in the middle. Stephen Buck on the far right. Not that he's a far right with a skinhead. Thank you and goodbye.